Alright guys, so as you probably know, we have another buyer for the E53X5. We have the battery problem fixed, so we fixed the wires. All that's put back together, all that's tidied up. Now, this thing had another problem whenever John drove it. It had a little bit of a coolant drip. I've never seen it do that yet, but since Greg, the guy is probably going to buy it, lives, I don't know how many hours away. He's in Michigan, 10 to 12 hours away. He's going to try to drive it home. So I told him it's probably not a good idea just because I don't know enough about this X5. And that long of a drive, that's a long drive for anything. So we're going to make a short video today on a couple things I noticed here. And the main thing is going to be the snap lock coolant lines. And from a distance, they look fine. You know, they haven't been dripping or nothing. Everything looks great. Damn horse flying on me. But I know these X5s real well, and I know that looks can be deceiving. And if nobody's replaced these hoses, or at least the O-rings inside of them, they're going to leak. And I'm going to show you right now why. And watch this. I barely touched that. I don't know if you can see that or not. It starts leaking. That might not leak when you're driving it, but yeah, I don't know. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to pull the O-ring kit, our Harbor Freight O-ring kit. We're going to O-ring this hose, this hose, this hose. The uppers, this upper's been replaced. I don't see any problem with that. We're going to get down here to the transmission cooler. I know that's a problem on a lot of these. I'm going to pull the transmission cooler off. It only has one clip, and there's 2 or 3 hoses on top. We're going to re-ring all of those. We're going to carefully inspect these 2 that go on the secondary water pump, and we might go ahead and re-ring those. We're going to go back here. The heater hoses don't have push lock fittings, and they're not bubbled out. They look really good. I might go ahead and just make sure the clamps are tight. Check everything that goes to the oil separator. Those E53's oil separators in back, not behind the timing chain guide. And just kind of check everything else out. Stuff like this he's going to have to fix. The hose kind of taped on there for the secondary air valve. That's not going to hurt anything. John figured out when it was here that the Windshield Squirter pump was not working. And I did check power to that. Just have power going to it. The pump is bad. That's real common, especially if somebody's had water in here instead of, or even the blue windshield washer fluid. When it gets real cold here in Missouri, it'll freeze, and that'll actually freeze that pump. It'll work for a little bit, and then eventually the fluid getting in the pump will seize the little pump up. We just bought some of these for the 3.0 E53X5. They're only like $8 a piece. There's one for the front, one for the back. So for 16 bucks, you could do 2 of those windshield washer pumps. The expansion tanks on these usually don't have a problem. And somebody, what the hell? Somebody's got a, well, I guess maybe that's better. This is supposed to be rubber going all the way through, but somebody's made a piece of copper for it. This kind of a problem with blowing that rubber hose. Maybe that's just an upgrade, you know, at this point, really. As long as the clamps are good, we'll check the clamps on that. We're just going to try to get our hands on as much stuff as we can. We've already checked the transmission fluid. It didn't look too bad. We pulled the oil filter. There was no shavings from timing chain guides in it at all. This thing does have chatter the first 2 or 3 seconds when you start it, like they all do. It does not have the upgraded timing chain tensioner. But you know what we found out? The upgraded timing chain tensioner doesn't really fix that. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that. And what it is, when you first start it, it takes a second for that tensioner to pump up full of oil, and chatters a little bit. So I don't know. Some guys are stacking washers and stuff in there. That's something that Greg can mess around with. That's not going to hurt it from driving. That's only on the cold start for about the first 2 or 3 seconds, if even. Okay, so here we go. We have some of our deoxit lithium grease. We use that for pre-assemble lube. We have my little pry bar I use all the time. If one of these are stuck, we could use that to push it up. We have our little pick, and we'll use that to pull the O-ring out. They actually make O-ring tools. You get them out without running them. We don't really care at this point. We just need to get it out. We're going to replace it anyway. We have our Harbor Freight O-ring kit. These have been doing really good. We use these a lot over the last 6 months. Never had a problem with one getting hard. I would think they'll last as long as the factory rubber ones. So yeah, I think we're about to get started. And also, totally forgot to tell you guys, I got a windscreen for the camera. I don't know if you could even see that or not. You can see it shades the sun a little bit. Not a windscreen, a sunshade you might call it. So maybe when it's real bright outside, we don't get any glares. I know it helps on the MRE channel too with those bright ass lights. It shades a little bit. So let's go ahead and set this up on the tripod and get started. Okay, so here we are. Now the coolant in this thing, we never did change the coolant in this thing. It don't look too bad, but we're probably just not gonna save it. We're probably gonna go and bust these off of here, let a lot of it drain out and put fresh coolant in it. That way Greg doesn't have to worry about it, and we can ensure that we pre-mix it correctly. Since he lives further north, he don't want it to have too much water or it will freeze. So first thing we're gonna do is take our pry bar. We're gonna do the top one first. Yeah, we should do the bottom one first, but it doesn't really matter. We're gonna pop that up, leaving that clip up. If we can't pull it off, we're gonna pry it off. Come on, if we're lazy, we're gonna take it off and instantly put it down. It's not what I wanted to do, but that's what happened. Just get it down a little bit below the level. I'm gonna snap that back in, and we definitely need to get a rag. Let me grab a rag. Drop a few things there, and here's our rag. We're gonna go ahead and pull the O-ring out with our hook. For right now, set it back up there. This one isn't too bad. It's not too good either though, but it is getting, probably hard to see on the camera, it is getting kind of flat. So we're just gonna get our Harbor Freight kit here. We're just gonna match up to what we need. And what we need, two different ones. This is a 211 and a 212. The 212 is a perfect match in this kit. Let's go ahead and just kind of set that off to the side. And you can see here, that, I don't know if you can see it or not, this one's kind of flat, this one is mint. So let's go ahead and wipe this guy back out. And we're gonna push that back down in there. There's a little groove that sets in. Tell you what, we're gonna push the one side down the groove, and we're gonna fumble a whole bunch because we're on camera. Oh, not too bad. And there it is. Now, before you could just push it back on, since it is a new ring, we're gonna take a little lithium grease, give her a little drinky drink down there, and with our line back close or clip back close, we're gonna go up here, line the hole up, and bam, there it is. Wipe some of the stuff off of here. You gotta watch doing this so you don't get anything down your coil pack bellies. Not real the way you probably should do it, by pulling the line off, but out here we're outside, so it's fine. All right, that fits much tighter. And I guess we're on down to all the other ones now, which there's quite a lot of them. Okay, so this side's all done. Now, we might go ahead and ring this bottom one. Yeah, we're gonna go and ring. I just don't like the way it's loose. Go and ring the bottom one, ring these two, and then this tranny cooler, there's just a, I don't know if you can even see it or not. Right, my damn hand on it or not. It's way down in there. There's a pin. If I can pull it. I have to get it from underneath. There's a pin or a clip you'd pop out, and the whole tranny cooler comes loose from the plastic guard on the the radiator. And there's an oil ring there that likes to leak, and then all these little hoses here, we're going to go and re-ring those. We're just trying to get everything possible that's going to cause him a heartache out on the road. Okay, so here's where we're at. Everything's good over here. I don't think we're going to replace the two on the pump. I don't know, we might yet. I just like to get everything that way, there's no question. We have 3 hoses. We have one right here that goes on top, which seemed like it was not even seated down. We have this guy here that comes from the other side that goes into the top slot. And then we have one right there that comes from the bottom, if you can even see there or not. And that hooks on the bottom. So we have 3 O-rings there. We have the transmission cooler, the pin pulled. This is the pin that goes to the cooler. That's what holds it onto this plastic shroud, and then it has an oil ring on each side that coolant goes through. So we're going to change both those oil rings. This pin looks a little funky. If there's any question, we're going to toss it and just put a different one on it. Because if that pin pops out, the whole transmission cooler pops off, and you lose all your coolant in about 2 minutes. Not something you want to have happen on the highway. That'll be a showstopper. So we're going to have to spend some really special attention to that and make sure that it's not pop off on Greg when he's going home with it. Okay, so what we done here, we just taking the fan off so you guys see a little bit easier what I'm doing. Spin off with our eBay fan tools. Those things aren't the best, but they're only 16 bucks for both of them. Those are the best option cost wise, but not really how to use. Anyway, the transmission cooler, which is right there, you can see the little shiny guy with the O-ring right there, an O-ring right there, and the clip goes in the middle. I started pulling those O-rings off. I got to looking at them, and they look like they're brand new, like somebody's just replaced those. And I think we might go ahead and leave those. Those are a double-sided O-ring. You could use standard O-rings in it, but you need a pretty fat one or even a double standard to make that work out. We're going to leave those in there. Before we do, I'll put my finger all the way around and make sure there's no rips or tears anywhere in them. And we're going to reinstall the transmission cooler next after we do that. And we're going to put our clip back in, make sure we're all good. And then we're going to go and re-ring these top 3. This one right here is the one that had a little bit of a drip when John had it. I could promise you, I could tell by the way it fit. By the way it was pushed on her, that was a problem. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's where we're at. The one I took out is the aftermarket hose. It has these big, goofy, real thick rings in it. So the one that usually works, that size, doesn't work for that. And this one is so soft and flimsy, I can't get it back down in the top of that hose. And we live in Missouri. It's about 97 degrees, and I don't know what the humidity is, but it's just crazy. But I'm starting to get a little bit sick. If you guys live in the South or you live in Missouri, you know, you can work outside for a while when it's this hot. It almost gives you like a stomach flu kind of deal. And look at me. Look at the state of me. Just covered head to toe in sweat. And it's a bad deal. So what we're gonna do before I get too sick, I'm gonna go in and cool off. I'm gonna take a shower. And I'm gonna dig around and see if I have anything that's similar to that. That's what sucks about these damn aftermarket hoses. They're so freaking hard to re-ring that. We rarely ever have that problem. All the rest of them went real easy. All the rest of them fit real nice. No problems at all. So we'll be back here in a little bit for you guys. It'll only be about 3 seconds. And yeah. All right, so it's the next day. We lived through the heat stroke yesterday. And kind of went in, chilled out, took a shower, took a little bit easy. It's kind of what you have to do when you get hot like that. Today it's a lot better. It's only 82 today. Real humid, probably gonna storm pretty soon. Anyway, the moral of the story is that hose had, let me see where it was at. Let me grab it. Had this O-ring in it, which somebody's put in it. That's why I couldn't get it back in the hose, because it's physically too big. That is the one I took out. So that little bit of a leak that John had after on the highway, it had to be this. I ended up taking that hose off the bottom with the lower radiator hose, took it inside, put it on the workbench, and could not get it in. And I pushed it in, and it's just too big. So at any rate, that takes a little different ring than what I had in our kit. The ring I had in our kit would fit, but it wasn't quite big enough, and the next size is too big, so it would drip. I didn't try it, but it would drip. I could tell how loose it was. So I did some searching here, had a bunch of O-rings for AC, and I found one of those green AC O-rings to put in there. It's the only thing I had that was that fat. So we did that. Everything is hooked up, everything is tight. We did all of that, all these over here, all these are good. We did not do the one going to the alternator, but I might just investigate that. It seems like it's pretty good shape. And yeah, we're ready to put coolant in it and start it up. That should be it as far as that goes. I just want to make sure that when Greg drives this thing back to Michigan, which is actually a little over a 10-hour drive, I looked it up last night, that this thing's not dripping randomly. And it won't ever drip. Stuff like this usually don't drip whenever you're in town. It'll drip on the interstate. You know, run your coolant bottle low, potentially cause a problem on the interstate. Now, all that being said, I would never recommend anybody drive one of these 10 hours away. Unless you're very fluent with this engine, you have a very nice toolbox with you, and I wouldn't do it. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. If I wouldn't do it, your average Joe that doesn't know much about cars should never do it. Anyway, that being said, this thing, I'll show you some flaws this thing has. This thing has a clear coat on the roof. Is peeling up here. You can't really see it too good. And then it has some little scratches. I don't know if you can even see that or not. On the windshield, it looks like somebody tried to scrape it with a scraper. I don't know if those will buff out. And this was missing the vanity cover on top, and it was missing the cowl. Now, Greg, the guy we're going to sell this to, he has a white one just like this. I believe that same color interior too. And so he has all these little extra parts. He did the timing chain guides on his, and his oil dipstick tube, I believe his oil dipstick tube started leaking and ran him out of oil and blew him up. So that car is not getting fixed. I can hear thunder in the background. This thing also has a spot of paint coming off the hood right there. The headlights, we've cleaned them a little bit. This one needs to be buffed again. We'll probably go ahead and do that for him, just to kind of show him again what everything is. The tires are really, really good on this thing. That's surprising. Our mirror cover turned out real nice. It is a tint darker than the rest of it. And then I think other than that, the passenger side door, oh, look at that. It's a new one. Didn't notice that before. We'll have to fix that for him. The airbag is missing in this door. And I think you've seen the video on that. Other than that, everything else on the inside works. And you pick up some of the stuff out of there for him and kind of get that close. Other than that, let me trip over the jack stand. Broke my leg or something cool. Other than that, this tail light where the bulb goes in was all broken. I took some self-tappers and kind of screwed, I'm not really sure how somebody does that, but we took some self-tappers, screwed it all in. It's been working perfect. I don't know, in future reference, Greg, if you're watching this, you might want to switch your tail light out with the other one. I think his other one is basically going to be sold on Craigslist for parts. And then our door handles, I already showed you the video on this. They didn't turn out very good. I might respray those for him, and I got them to fit a little better. They didn't fit very good. And this front one, this outer cover doesn't fit worth a crap. So I don't know if he's going to switch that out. This is still the original handle, that's fine. So basically this outer cover, the paint's a shade different, and this handle and this is a little bit lighter. Thanks to, I don't remember the name of the company, mixed the paint wrong for us. And that's really about it. Overall, not too bad. This thing's not the cleanest in the world. Well, I guess that door's locked. This thing's not the cleanest in the world, but it's definitely a hell of a start. And we're gonna sell it to him for $2,000. Probably got, I don't know, probably 1,000 in this thing by this time, maybe a little bit over. The book on it's real high. The book on it's like 6 or 7, but this does carry a prior salvage title, which when you get that cheap with cars doesn't really make too much difference. It looked like to me it had a mild front end collision. The bumper's been repainted. It is missing the bezels around the fog lights, and that's really all I could tell it's missing on it. Other than that, I mean, with just a few tidbits and parts, it should clean up real nice. And I think it had, what was the deal here? Let me pause this. Yeah, on this back door, it was, when we got it, it was missing this trim. It was missing the cover on this, and it's missing the switch. It's parts we just didn't have. It's not that big of a deal since it's on the back. Oh yeah. And it's also missing this for whatever freaking reason. No excuse for that. It's also missing that. Greg will have all that stuff on his other one. And you guys, if you ever had the problem these back doors won't open, or won't unlock right. Let's see, what was the deal with that? They won't unlock with the button, but you could reach in and grab the handle and unlock it with the handle. And that's always this switch right here, the childproof switch. So I don't know why they have it set up quite like that. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's what the problem is. It won't unlock by itself. So that's pretty much it, guys. This thing, make sure we're recording. This thing is pretty much ready to go. Church bells ringing in the background. Pretty much ready to go. It needs a bunch of little stuff. That's why we're selling it for $2,000 and not selling for $5,000 or $6,000. To bring $5,000 or $6,000, this thing would have to be pretty much mint. I don't have the time right now to go through that. We are trying to get rid of all these other cars here. We're trying to cycle down so we could build the shop. Hopefully YouTube has got off their high horse this month and finally paid me enough to throw some money at that. That's what the hope is. I really want to get at least the roof and the walls up to that and get us out of the sun, get us out of the rain, give us a little better filming, and then we can slowly, month by month, do the installation and build everything out. That being said, hope you liked today's video. Hope it helped some of you guys out. It really wasn't a how-to other than the O-rings. You can change those. Make sure you have the right ones for you to do that. Or your car does itself more problem than what good you're helping, what good you're doing. I don't know. You can tell I'm tired as hell. That's it. I'll see you guys later.